years, and he offered up no further information about the incident. As it stands, it's unclear what happened to archaeology, whether there was more to his story, or if he ever brought the matter up with the authorities. It's also unknown whether Scott Cleeshalt was really the victim in question.
But this post, and thousands like it, prove that you never know what skeletons someone might be hiding in their closet. Heck, maybe you have a few skeletons of your own. If you do, take my advice. Don't go posting about them on Reddit, or you might just end up in a video like this.
So this next entry actually comes from a Facebook post. A post about a YouTube ad. One that, supposedly, watches you back. There's no footage to go along with it, just this screenshot, but the text itself paints a very clear and very unsettling picture. So back in 2019, a Facebook user named Raul Navarrete created a post that got shared around and gained a lot of attention. It revolves around an anuncio inteligente, or smart ad. Now I don't speak Spanish, but two very helpful people in my Discord server do, so big thanks to Isabeau and Lavender for translating this into English. Here's Raul's story. Something super weird just happened. I was watching YouTube on my smart TV, when, all of a sudden, an ad showed up, as is common on YouTube. I was gonna skip, when I noticed this ad was more than 5 hours long. It surprised me, and I called my dad so he could see the length of the video. I took a picture while I waited for my dad to get there. The girl in the ad kept talking, and by the time my dad got there, she directed her eyes at him. Even my dad joked that she was looking at him. My dad and I stood in front of the TV. The girl went quiet, and we felt like she was looking at the both of us. We kept thinking that that was impossible, that she couldn't look at us, since this wasn't a video call. It was an ad on YouTube. It was simply impossible for her to see us. We laughed at how dumb it sounded, and the girl kept speaking. But all of a sudden, she got close to the screen, and we started to feel a little uncomfortable and scared. My dad wanted to test if she was looking at us, so he said "Chunga" a couple of times. Then something incredible happened. The Asian girl said "Chunga" back. In that moment, we got scared, and I looked for the remote to skip the ad. Between my dad and I, we decided we were really tired. It had been a long day, but either way, we couldn't ignore this fact, and we turned off the TV. My doubts are, what the hell happened? Do TVs have cameras? If this is true, then I can see surveillance being possible. And finally, has YouTube been hacked? This thing that happened to my dad and I scared us. If something similar has happened to you, I'd like to know your story. This was mine. So obviously, there isn't any video proof to help legitimize this story, and all we have to go off is Raul's word that this is true. In fairness, I have seen some crazy ads play on YouTube. Some have legit been over 2 hours, and I have seen ones that are really unsettling too. A lot of them aren't even trying to sell you anything, so it's pretty obvious to me that YouTube doesn't have the strictest requirements when it comes to advertising on their platform. That being said, unless there was hacking involved or YouTube was testing some sort of new ad function, I think the girl looking at them was just a pure coincidence. That, or more likely, Raul just made the whole thing up. I'm almost 100% sure it's not possible to even livestream a commercial, let alone make an ad that's an actual video chat. So as interesting and haunting as this story's concept is, I think it's just that. A story. A good one though. Described as a pillar of his community, Joseph Martinez was an amateur astronomer and YouTuber known to his followers as Jupiter Joe. Old JJ had made headlines in local papers for his work with young astronomy enthusiasts in the Bronx, helping them see constellations and planets through all of New York's light pollution using his high-quality telescope. But until just this week, our friend Jupiter Joe had been harboring a dark secret. One he had been keeping for the past 22 years. One that will make you see him in a very different light. One that'll make you sick to your stomach. On February 24th, 1999, Minnie Soriano was on her way home from her middle school in the Bronx. Unfortunately, she never made it back to her apartment. Halfway through her journey, she was snatched by a then 27-year-old Jupiter Joe, who proceeded to do unspeakable things to her before strangling her and hiding her body in a dumpster. The year was 1937. The setting? Beijing, then known as Peking. 19-year-old Pamela Werner was the adopted daughter of an established British diplomat and had spent the vast majority of her life in the Chinese capital. She was fluent in Mandarin, knew her way around the city well, and had many friends who she socialized with frequently. On a cold evening in January, Pamela went ice skating with her friends. She was due to leave for London in a few days to further her education, and wanted to spend some quality time with the people she cared about the most. At around 7 p.m, Pamela said goodbye to her friends. This would be the last time they'd ever see her alive. The next morning, Pamela's mutilated corpse was discovered by the last surviving section of Peking's Ming Dynasty wall, only a short walk from her home. Her ribs were broken, and many of her organs had been cut out. Her heart, kidneys, liver, and bladder were missing. Her throat had been slashed open so deeply that her head was almost severed. Her right arm was barely still connected to her torso. The frozen ground around her was stained red. The expensive watch on her wrist had stopped a few minutes after midnight. It remains unclear what happened to Pamela after she left the ice rink that night. There's no concrete evidence to tell us where she went, what she may or may not have got up to, or who she may or may not have bumped into. With all that said, two prominent theories do exist. Paul French and Graham Shepherd have both published books about the murder mystery of Miss Werner, but the authors paint two very different pictures. In fact, the only thing they both seem to agree on is that Pamela's life came to an end with a blow to the head. I'll start with French's version of events, which he presents in his book, Midnight in Peking. After researching the case extensively, French believes it's most likely that after skating with her friends, Pamela met up with another group of females to go to a party. The party was being hosted by an American dentist in the city, Wentworth Prentice. Prentice and his friends were known for not being the nicest of people, put it like that. Not the kind of guys you'd bring back home to mother. Pamela was a patient of the bad boy dentist, and so likely didn't feel intimidated by him or his mates. Their party eventually moved on to another place, a seedy club in a place known as the Badlands. You can imagine what kind of things went on in that neighborhood. French claims that it's here Pamela was separated from her friends. There she stood, in a room with only a bed in it, surrounded by a group of men. From there, a number of things could have happened. Maybe she resisted. Maybe she screamed. Maybe one of the men panicked and hit her over the head with something hard to shut her up. Either way, that was both the end of the party and the end of Pamela. The men then drained her body of all her blood to make her lighter and easier to move. They took her to where she was discovered the next morning, a place with no streetlights and few passers-by. Their plan was to chop up her body, make her unrecognizable, dispose of the pieces in predominantly Chinese areas, and pass the blame on to a non-existent local psychopath. The dentist and his friends were all hunting buddies, and all knew their way around a blade. They were likely interrupted when someone came by, and left Pamela where she was found. Graham Shepherd's hypothesis about what happened that night is much different. The writer himself was a former police detective, and he claims that French's version of events doesn't make sense from a policing perspective. No, his version is much more simple, and goes like this. Pamela was not the kind of girl who'd go along with a group of men to the infamous Badlands. That would have been completely out of character for her. Even if the party actually happened, it's likely that she never went to it. It's more likely that she met up with one of her old Chinese schoolmates, a man called Han Su Qing. This man would be the one to end her life after she broke his heart sometime before. He probably dumped her body in the street late that night, and then some random passers-by harvested her organs to sell for some superstitious Chinese medicine practices. A dark theory indeed. Both writers have problems with each other's version of events, but in all likelihood, we'll never know which one, if either, is correct. In 1943, the Japanese army took control of Peking, and the investigation into Pamela's demise came to an end. After the war, all interest in the case faded. Whatever evidence had been collected was already lost. We know as much now as 82 years ago. Although the circumstances of Pamela's untimely demise remain a mystery, and probably will forevermore, at least these two books have shone a light on her case, and ensure that she won't be forgotten to history. I'm a private investigator in a small town in central Ukraine. For the sake of my business, I can't reveal which town exactly. Heck, I probably shouldn't even be sharing this story to begin with, yet here we are. Most of the cases I've worked over the years have been unremarkable to say the least. I specialize in infidelity, and spend most of my working days spying on cheating husbands and wives, then reporting back to my client, letting them know whether their partner is innocent or guilty of double dipping, so to speak. A few years back, though, I worked an unusual case, one that ended up being much darker than I anticipated. It all started when a husband and wife entered my office. They hadn't even booked an appointment. They didn't need to. Just from glancing up at them, I instantly knew who they were. The Roshchas, by far the richest people in our area. They had the biggest house, nicest car. Everybody knew they were hot stuff. I asked them to take a seat and tell me how I could help them. "Sir," they explained to me, "it's our daughter, Sophia. She's run away with her new boyfriend, and we have no idea where she is. They've only known each other for a couple of weeks. They left 2 days ago. Look, she left us a note." The father handed me a crumpled up piece of paper. It read as follows. "Dear Mother and Father, I've decided to elope with my boyfriend, Andre. He's won my heart, and I wish to start a new life with him across the border. I don't know when I'll be back, if ever. Don't cry for me, for he makes me happier than anyone deserves to be. Forever yours, Sophia Roshcha." They told me this was completely out of character. Not to mention, the handwriting didn't look like hers at all, and the words didn't sound like something she had put. It was all too formal. They tried calling Sophia, but she never answered. The family immediately went to the police, begging them to help find their daughter. The authorities were strangely unhelpful. They said there was no reason to be suspicious, and that the girl had just left on her own terms. The family even offered to pay the cops, seeing how rich they were and all, but even still, they refused to look into the case. That's why they came to me. I was the only person who'd be willing to help them look for her. I asked if there was anything they could give me to help me get started. They gave me several pictures of Sophia and her new boyfriend, Andre, a very handsome young man in his late 20s. Apparently, they had to snap the pictures secretly. Andre really hated being on camera. "Sir, that's not all," they told me. "You see, the reason we came to you specifically. This morning, we received an anonymous letter in the mail. We have no idea who it came from. Here." I opened the precisely folded letter and read it. "To the Roshcha family, your daughter Sophia is in grave danger. Andre is not who he claims to be. The police won't help you. It may already be too late. Go to this man for help. It's your best chance. Signed, a friend." The man he named in the letter was me. The plot thickened. I agreed to help the family, told them I'd make the case my priority. They told me to do whatever I had to do. Money wasn't a factor. Problem was, with 0 leads, it was hard to know where to start looking. Turns out, a lead came to me. An hour after Sophia's parents left my office, I received a call from a private number. An unknown male voice spoke. Listen closely. Andre will be at this location at 8 p.m. He won't be alone. It could be dangerous. If you go, be careful. I jotted down the location the stranger told me. A restaurant in the nearest city, maybe a 45-minute drive away. I then asked him the obvious question. Who am I talking to? A friend. Whatever you do, don't tell the parents. How do I know I can trust you? I've already said too much. Good luck. The line went cold. No doubt it was the same guy who sent the letter to the Roschas. I thought about calling them, but decided to heed the stranger's warning. Instead, I grabbed my camera and hopped in my car outside, drove to the restaurant the guy mentioned. I made it there around 8:15. I entered and made my way to the bar, ordered a soft drink. I subtly scanned the room. There, on the corner table, was Andre, the supposed boyfriend. So much for running and eloping to another country. He was sat with a girl. It wasn't Sophia. What the hell was this guy up to? I kept an eye on them, biding my time. They paid their bill. I paid mine. They left together. I followed behind at a distance. They both got into a car outside. I got into mine. They had no idea I was tailing them as they drove off. After about 20 minutes of driving, I was startled when I saw them turn off into what looked like an abandoned factory complex. Not exactly a romantic spot. I pretended to continue on down the road, straight, then quietly pulled off to the side and switched off my headlights. I decided to get out of my car and walk into the factory grounds, not wanting Andre to know I was there too. I sneaked through the gate and into the complex. I watched as Andre switched off his engine outside the old factory. To my surprise, 2 other men emerged from the abandoned building. They were large and skin-headed, with a look of cruelty about them. That's when I heard muffled female screaming coming from inside Andre's vehicle, which only got louder as the 2 men opened the passenger side door and dragged Andre's date out. She was kicking and struggling as they dragged her into a black van waiting nearby. God damn it, human traffickers. I couldn't sit there and do nothing, but what could I do?